Hello, hello, all. Thank you for joining us again on the Almost Brothers podcast. Hey, will you do us a favor? If this podcast has meant something to you and encouraged you, will you consider becoming a monthly supporter? You could do $3, $5, $8, or $10 a month. What this does is this helps financially support the podcast so that we can continue to put out content and help better serve you. So if you would, down in the show notes, you can click the link, support, and become a monthly member. We love you. New episode coming your way. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Almost Brothers podcast. Thank you for joining us yet again today. Spending some time with me and Rich. Rich, how you doing?
I'm good. It's been a good weekend, man.
That's right. Are you tired?
I'm exhausted.
Yeah. We had that.
Not the word for it.
We had a lock in with a bunch of youth, so we are wore out.
Smooth out.
But at least we got tomorrow off.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm off all week, so.
I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, but surgery. I mean, we're not going to count that day. That day's going to be a little rough on
A
you.
little stressful, but that's okay.
But yeah. Well, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the war and wonder of worship. Let's go. There for a second, I thought I had a piece of candy in there. I was like super excited. Man, I was like, wait a second.
Is old school Mike coming out?
Is this what I think it is? Just say fat Mike. Just like, don't say old school. Like,
the first rule was not to be playing with rappers.
I know, and that was the first thing. But I thought there was something in there. I was so excited. Like, ooh. Oh, that's so funny. Well, y'all heard a few voices. We have a few guests on today. So on today's episode, we've got Pastor Sean Ussery.
Hello.
Hey. How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
He is our worship pastor at Remnant, so we're excited to have him on. We also have Tyler Wilkerson. Tyler, how's it going?
It's going. It's bueno.
It's does that mean good, right?
I think so.
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
I hope so. If not, it's been wrong this whole time.
If not, I've been using it in the wrong way for a long time. And we also have the beautiful, awesome, amazing Olivia Wilkerson. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm a little croaky today, but
Yeah, you lost your voice at the lock-in. Oh,
It
that
was
was so
rough.
funny. Y'all woke up. Help me. It's like SpongeBob when he needed water.
that's what it sounded. Yeah, that's exactly what I sounded like. It was awful.
Oh, it's so funny. But yeah, so we're just going to be talking about the wonder and war of worship and just talk about all aspects of it because, you know, of course, we kind of put worship into the context of singing, but really worship is a lot of things that we do in a lot of ways that we can worship. And sometimes it's a war and sometimes it's an amazing, awesome thing that can break some things off of you at the same time. So we're just kind of going to talk about that today. So first, just kind of introduce yourself and kind of give a background of you and how, because all three of y'all are worship. So we have the Wilkersons, our lead worshipers for our youth, and then our worship pastor is Pastor Sean. So just kind of give us a breakdown of your history as worshipers.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, paper, rock, scissors. I don't care how you want.
Okay, so my background in worship, I started with my church's youth when I was back in, I don't remember what grade I was in. I was in high school sometime, probably a freshman, I believe, maybe in 8th grade even. But I started playing with them. I was playing guitar. I played drums every once in a while. And then graduated high school, went to college, and I played at a couple different churches, kind of filled in at different places. And then when I moved down here is when me and Olivia first met. And ever since then, I kind of been, I think maybe a few months, maybe 7 or 8 months after we had been dating, I started playing with their worship team at a Word of Faith. And that's kind of been my background, as well as, I went to college for music. I have a degree in music education. I've been studying music for just about 13 years.
Yeah. So how many instruments do you play? Not including the 15 guitars that you own. I mean, like different instruments. Like that doesn't count.
Guitars. I own 3 guitars, and the better question is, what instruments can I not play?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Because
you play a little
because
everything.
people ask me that a lot, and I hate going through the list.
Yeah. Do you play the triangle?
Well, I studied percussion, so yes. I studied percussion specifically.
Yeah.
I've been studying that for about 13 years, but I did learn just about any other instrument. I took two years of piano. I took a semester long of brass instruments, so trumpet, trombone, baritone, tuba. Took a semester of saxophone, clarinet, oboe, bassoon. What other instruments? Violin, cello, viola, and string bass. French horn. I learned that too. Actually, when I was student taught at Jackson High School, and I had to teach a French horn class.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So actually,
just for that. Oh, wow.
French horn. I had to teach a French horn class.
That's crazy. And to this day, Lee still says she feels weird hearing Tyler and not Mr. Wilkerson. So just so you know. Just so you know. And Olivia, let's get your background. I know yours is more of a church background. I know Tyler's more music, but I know yours is more.
Yeah. I've gone to the same church for over 22 years. Yeah. About to be 23. So my entire life, literally. I was just born into it, and my parents are not musically inclined at all. They just aren't at all. I think my mom and my dad did band for a semester or a year, and that was it.
Yeah.
In high school.
Yeah.
But I do piano over at our main church, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, ever since I was younger. And because I started piano lessons when I was around 8 or 9, and just pretty much from there is where it kind of took off. And I would ask if I could sing on Sunday mornings with my grandparents, and I really loved being able to be up there and worship with them. It was just something that I felt I needed to do and I was supposed to do. And so it just kind of pulled me in from there. So.
Oh yes. That's what's up. I took piano lessons also. All 4 hours of it. It was
Isn't that the same amount of time you took Spanish? High school.
C.
He's got that pat down.
I got the yes and the no, and what is the El Bueno? What's the bathroom? Yes, that's it. That's the one.
I still remember that from when I took Spanish for a semester.
That's it. That's all that sunk in.
I took Spanish. We were only made to take Spanish 1 year in our 12 years of being in public school, and I took it in the 6th grade. And the only thing I remember is watching the documentary movie on Selena.
That's it. Is that a prerequisite to every Spanish class?
Wait, so
I can speak all the Spanish I need, which is quesadilla and
wow, the menu of
burritos,
yeah, that's about
Tío Cabrito.
That's funny.
Hey, I'm returning.
That's
You're right. That's right.
all I need.
That's so funny.
So they made you take Spanish? You had to?
That's what it was in our school too.
That was
you had to have at least 1 year
Really?
of. And it was.
We didn't do that at ours.
It was I think German, French, and Spanish, and you had to do one of them.
We only had Spanish.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
you only had
elective.
Spanish. Oh, okay.
It was you can do this if you want.
Yeah.
You know?
We had to have one foreign credit or a foreign language credit, and that was the only foreign language we had.
Well, and I only did it because Jamie was in the class. So let's get that out of
the
the
only
way.
reason you've done anything.
You're
entire
right.
life.
Every decision I've made from the day that we met is because of that woman. I love you, babe. Avid listener. So Pastor Sean, what about you and your history?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was 7. My stepdad was in a band, and it was just something I was really interested in. So they got me a electric guitar and an amp, and from there I just picked everything up by ear, and it was just always kind of a natural talent. And man, I just for years and years, that's just what I did. There was a couple years, whenever I was really lost, that I kind of lost interest and didn't mess with it too much, because that's what those bad years do. They steal everything that you love from you. But whenever I got saved and really dedicated my life to God about 9 years ago, it all switched over to Christian music, and I was asked to start helping in a little church. And man, I was scared to death. I wasn't very social at all. And so the guitar was actually my shield, because that was the one thing I had confidence in.
Right.
And
Like a security blanket almost.
Yeah. And that was before I got ordained. And it was really the introduction into public speaking and being in front of people. But whenever I got ordained, I really had to pray about it, because I knew that was the calling that God had. But I literally could not speak in a microphone to people. And that was just the whole start of all of the praise and worship. And really, I think the worship side of it for me really comes out of necessity, because I don't necessarily feel confident most of the time. But it's not about me or performing for people. So it's all worship.
Yeah.
And that's really where the biggest shift, the biggest change of all of it's come from, is when the mindset was, when it changed from, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this, to I'm just going to pour my heart into it.
Yeah.
And that's really where it all came from, is a mindset to change from looking at the people to looking to our Father.
Yeah. Almost that thought of, nobody is out there. It's just me. It just, worshiping, and it has nothing to do with anybody in front of you. Yeah, that's good. And it's pretty cool. We're all on the worship team, at our church, and I think it's pretty neat. So let's talk about the war side of it. The days which again, it's just open. And Richard, if you got questions or anything, don't let me because I find this very fascinating, because I think worship, I think God created worship for a very specific purpose, to be able to heal and to change a lot of things, not just to be able to worship him, but also to be able to break things off of us. So I want to talk about the war side of it, and the thinking of when we wake up and we just don't feel like worshiping, where we wake up and maybe we've had a bad week or a bad month or a bad year, and you just don't feel like worshiping that day. What are some of the things that y'all find yourself doing that make you want to get out of that and get back to worship when maybe you don't feel like it, or maybe it's just a tough time for you?
Me personally, I grew up in church, and then by the time I got older and I was in college, I didn't necessarily grow out of church. It was more like I got out of the routine.
Yeah.
And then I started playing at a couple churches, filling in every once in a while. And I've always had a love for music ever since I put a guitar in my hands, or a pair of drumsticks. And I feel like that was kind of a precursor for me into worship. I feel like when there's days that I don't feel like worshiping, I feel like that love for music is just an encouragement for me to do that. Because I'm not a great speaker. I'm not a witty speaker that can come up with these things to say that are off the top of my head, but they're like so clever or whatever. I'm not that kind of person to do that or say that, or I'm not even good at songwriting or anything like that. But when it comes to worship, all these songs that we do at church, and then all the songs that I listen to, I feel like those are words that I couldn't have come up with myself, and that allows me to kind of speak through those songs.
Right.
The words that I'm listening to, or I'm singing, or whatever it is, I feel like those are flowing through me as worship, whether they be my own words or not.
Yeah.
I feel like that's coming from a place of worship.
Yeah, kind of helping you articulate how you feel.
Exactly. It's
Right.
giving me the ability to sing or say the words that I don't really know what I'm supposed to say.
Right. That's good.
I come from the same thing on the love of music. That's always been my entire life. I've not really been somebody that heard music. I felt music.
Yeah.
So when I got saved, Christian music was it has the ability to instantly change the mood of any room.
Yeah.
So once you feel that Holy Spirit moving through you, it's an amazing, amazing thing. So to be a part of that, I haven't done it as long as everybody else probably, but I don't get to that point where I don't want to do this,
Right.
Because I haven't been doing it as long,
Yeah.
but it's just an amazing thing to be a part of. So I don't get there, I guess.
Yeah. Which I know for you, I know what's really cool is we've talked about this before is especially with Silver, like that's how you and her connected. That's how you and her would kind of spend your time together.
With the music,
And I think it's a cool thing that y'all had that connection, and that's why it means so much to you, because you as her father had that connection. I think you and your heavenly Father have that connection.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why you love it so much, and why maybe y'all two connect, because you love, singing and using music to praise the Lord. So that's all.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna write that down.
Hey, that's good stuff. Write that down. Feel free. Sean, what about you, man? What's something that you use to be able to kind of get you out of the funks and the parts of life where maybe you just don't feel like it?
Well, really, most of the time, that's you guys. That's all of you. There's a lot of times.
Well, give it up for us, man. We're awesome right now. That's what I'm talking about.
1 point for us.
I don't get paid, so I don't get a raise for saying that. But no, I mean, really, there are times, and most of the time, honestly, it's selfishness that makes, that gets to where you feel like that. And I'm like, man, I don't want to drive that far and then drive home. It's a matter of kind of like, I want my time. And, I force myself to do it. I mean, not always, but when we hit those moments,
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, I force myself to do it to not let you guys down. And every single time, man, I'll go home and I'll tell my wife, I'm like, I'm so glad
Yeah.
that this, I know why I do this. And
Yeah.
and I tell her, I have to not be selfish. I have to give that's my sacrifice. You know what I mean? And also when I get in those moments, I remind myself of 2 Chronicles chapter 20, and it starts around verse 21 when we actually get to the point of it. But all of the armies were coming at Jehoshaphat from every side, and any one army could have defeated him. One army by themselves, and
Right.
he had 4 of them coming from every direction, and they were praying about it and asking God, what do we do? And he's like, look, I've already told you, I've got this. But the answer was to send out the praise team.
Yeah.
And I remind myself of that because it isn't about me. It isn't about you. It's not about any of us. It's about all of us as a whole, not just us sitting here, but the entire church, the entire youth group, whoever is in that room at that moment. This is a battle all around us. It's a war that's raging, and it's our responsibility with the gifts, the talents that we were given, the ability to do this thing, that we stand up there on the front line to break down the barriers, to step in between the war that's raging and say, you know what, I'm having a hard time in my life, but I'm going to stand here with you and praise. And so those are the things that pull me out of it the most, is our conversations and just the reminders that this is why we're doing this thing.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on something really good. Like, it just got me thinking about how, you talked about sometimes it's selfishness, right? That sometimes you just don't want to do it, or you're not feeling it, or whatever it may be. And some people may be sitting thinking, well, I'm not on a worship team like this. This episode is kind of for those that do music. But it got me thinking, like, you're going to worship one thing or another, regardless. Whether you're singing, no matter what you're doing, you're worshiping one thing or another. So when we're talking about worship, all of us are musicians, but we're talking about just worship in general. You worship in many, many ways, and you're worshiping one thing or another. There's only one thing that you can worship that breaks chains. Everything else that you worship puts chains on you. So to say, I want to be selfish, that's because at that moment, what happens is you want to worship yourself. You want to say, my needs are more than what God needs, or my wants are more than what he wants. So in your life, if you think that well, just because I don't sing, I'm not a worshiper or whatever it may be. No, you worship God in your praise. You worship God in your singing. You worship God in doing your job. Maybe you're a car salesman. Maybe, maybe you work at the school. Like, you're worshiping God one way or another. And some days we wake up and we don't want to worship him in those things. We wake up and I just don't feel like going to my job and giving my all. That's you not worshiping God. Or you wake up and I don't really want to mess with these kids today. Like, that's you not worshiping God. That's you giving into your selfishness and saying, I don't want to be who God called me to be today. Yeah. So in those moments, you need to realize, I know it's tough for us all. Like, we all wake up in those moments where we just don't want to do anything, but realize that even in doing that, you're worshiping something. Mm-hmm. So,
well, that's years ago. I worked at a furniture company as a salesperson, and there was a guy that worked there that said he was a Christian. It was before I was saved. He claimed to be a Christian, but he was the most underhanded salesperson there.
Yeah.
And, looking back at that, I'm like, that was not honoring God.
Yeah.
To claim to be a Christian and then, be underhanded like that. So yeah, there's worship in all aspects of life.
I think that guy sold me a couch. Like, wait a second. Look here, Phil.
Phil sold you his couch.
Right. I was wondering why I met him in a back alley and not at the store. And now it's all.
That's where you went wrong.
I'm starting to get it all now. So I think that's a good way to segue us into now not just the war of worship, but the wonder of worship, and how, just like you said, how those days where you don't want to go, we're tired and you don't want to worship, but then you get home and it's like, oh, I'm so glad I went. That's the beautiful wonder of worshiping a man named Jesus, is that things start to break off of you that you think have nothing to do with worship or singing or church or your job or being a good person or being a parent. You don't think any of this is worth anything, but all of a sudden things start to fall off of you. And there's days you wake up depressed, and then all of a sudden just playing with your kids, now all of a sudden your worries are starting to fuss. Like, why is this happening? It's because in doing those things, if you're doing them for the right reason, you're worshiping God in doing that. If you're a believer and you're set up and you say, you know what, Jesus is Lord of my life, and you do those things, you're honoring him. And we talk about, Sabbath all the time. It's like, hey, take a day off to watch movies, go for a walk, like do all these things. Like, yeah, but that's not honoring God. It absolutely is.
Right.
Everything you do is honoring him. Everything you do that he wants you to do, be a good parent, be a good person, all these things are honoring him. So let's just talk about some of the times where you did fight that urge to not do it, and then all of a sudden you just break out of something and like, man, I feel so much better. Or maybe there was, something you were dealing with, even financial troubles. All of a sudden you decide, I'm going to worship today. I don't even care. I'm just going to give it to the Lord. And then all of a sudden things turn around. You're like, wow, this is kind of crazy.
I mean, me specifically, when, there's been a few times where I came to church getting stuff ready and I just wasn't feeling it. But music is, for me, or for anyone, why God put music on this earth and why he gave that to us, it's powerful.
Yeah.
And I think for me, God uses music for me on a very, very personal level in those moments where I really don't feel like worshiping, that he gives music the ability to change my mood, to change my attitude. And I know before, in those times where I come to church and I don't feel like worshiping, I know afterwards I always do.
Yeah.
I always do. And, I've heard a lot of people, like former worship leaders that are not in the church anymore, talk about, oh, well, we do, we use music to, control your attitude. And the reason, or how we do that, is by doing this. And that's kind of saying like, oh, that feeling you get, that's not God. That's just us changing the key in a song. well, whatever that was came from God, right? God put music on this earth for a reason. And music has such a strong power in our lives that we're able to do that because of God.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's what it was for. That's what it's for. So you could sing his praises. And I think that it's such a powerful thing, and that's why the world always seems to want to manipulate it. Because again, we talk about the enemy uses what God meant for good to try to manipulate you and to change it into something different, what it was never intended to be. And I think that's why you see a lot of these big artists that they used to be in the church. That's where they started. Beyonce or any of these singers that they started in the church. And then all of a sudden it got twisted into something that it was never meant to be. And again, it's just worshiping the world is all it is. It's just a change of worship. It's the same worship to a different thing. It's the exact opposite. Instead of worshiping him, now all of a sudden you're worshiping yourself because of the fame and the money and all this, and the fans and whatever it may be. So it's just, it's that Nebuchadnezzar bow down to the golden statue. Like, you're going to worship something, whether you bow or stand, you're worshiping one or the other. So I just think it's such a powerful thing, man, just to see. Even this morning, it was just an acoustic, kind of strip away and go down to the bare basics, and just to see people just crying and people down at the altar. It's such an amazing, powerful thing to watch and be a part of. And it was just awesome. I mean, just this morning, getting to sit and just be a part of it was just so cool. And I know, Olivia, you come from like a Christian college background. Like, what is that kind of culture with worship? How does that? Yeah.
Sorry. I'm over this mucus, whatever it is, crap. I'm done. I didn't go to a Christian college for very long. I was there for a semester, and I will say that the only reason that I didn't stay was out of fear. I let fear take over and dictate my life at that point. And at that point, I really didn't know what to do, whether to stay or to go. And I had a lot of people like, I really feel like you're supposed to be here, but I was just I was mortified. Like, I was like, I don't, like, if I'm here, what am I here for? Like, I don't know, and I was too scared to find out, I guess. And so, looking back, I do wish that I would have stayed, because I would have gotten so much more out of it than what I thought, and like, not just for me, but like for my spiritual walk, like, but Christian college is like, it's really fun. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. We would do these, chapels just on like a Tuesday or Thursday every week. And they did worship nights on Wednesday nights, every Wednesday night. And that was one of my favorite times to go to church. Yeah. Was on Wednesday nights, because that's all it was just worship. And like, it's just you and God. Like, you can feel his presence as soon as you walk into those doors. Yeah. And yeah, it was like a really big church, and it was like, oh, this, the what is it called? The
fog.
No, the
atmosphere.
Yeah, the atmosphere. The atmosphere was just like, they got the fancy lights and the fog and everything, and it's just like, but that's not what it's about. Like, I do feel like personally, and I could be wrong about this, so like, correct me if I am, but like, I do feel like that kind of enhances it almost, and it makes it more personal.
Yeah,
and more.
Yeah, it can for sure, absolutely. Yeah,
because
you walk into a place and time has been spent on setting that up and getting that atmosphere going. It really does, man.
Absolutely. And it's just like, because like, you hear a lot of people, they're like, the atmosphere is just to like satisfy people and like, whatever. And I'm like, no, I really don't feel like that is. Like, I feel like it does enhance the intimateness, if that's a word.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why, like, even in the church, it doesn't have lights, so you turn the lights down during worship. It's to make people a little more comfortable in crying and not feel like lifting their hands. People are just
staring at them, like, Yep. And I mean, that's always been something that I've been kind of nervous about, like whenever it comes to worshiping and like not being afraid to worship, because I've been to churches and it's like they have the type of atmosphere that we have at Remnant, where it is darker whenever we do worship and stuff, which I absolutely love. I've always loved that.
Yeah.
And like I can't like stress that enough, just how important I feel like that is. And it feels like you're just having that one-on-one with God. And then I've also been to churches where it's just like they got all the lights on that are about to blind you.
Yeah.
and and you're just like, okay, I feel like if I raise my hand, somebody's gonna look at me funny and be like, what the heck is she raising? You know, like
Right.
you know, or like go down to the altars. That used to be a big thing for me too. I used to be terrified. Like I let fear rule my life for the longest time.
Yeah.
And my mom could tell you all about that, but it was horrible. Like she would go to the store in Cape, and I would freak out. I would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna like die!" Like if I'm not
gosh.
with you. Yeah, I was like, I just let fear just run rapid in my head. It was just awful. But we're past all that, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I am learning to be more confident in my spiritual walk and in my relationship with God. Like, so I mean, I'm still a work in progress, but we all are. So,
Yeah, man. Well, I know you hit on talking about that, just the atmosphere, just setting up the atmosphere, and I know that Pastor Sean has really talked about this at Remnant, is trying to create that culture of, just like you said, where people kind of, they look around and they feel like, oh man, I'm going to be looked at. We want to flip that on its head and make it to where if you're not worshiping, like you feel like the outcast, like instead of, oh, I'm the only one lifting my hands.
Yeah.
We want people to feel like, oh crap, I'm the only one not lifting my hands, you know? So, Sean, what is something that you think that will help create that atmosphere? Because I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I think a lot of it is the people in the church that aren't on the stage realizing that you're part of the worship team.
Absolutely. You know, we try to really emphasize that. And for one, you know, in a church, sometimes you're dealing with a lot of people that don't trust churches, which means they're not going to trust leadership. And so when we're telling them things, they're not going to think necessarily that we're telling them something without an objective, if that makes sense. So, you know, you've got to break through that mold. And so what that takes is just us being genuine time after time after time. It's consistency.
Yeah.
And it does take a few people, because, you know, it's just like anything. Once a couple other people out start, you know, really surrendering and feeling comfortable, then another person's going to see that, and they've been holding it in now for a while. So now they're wanting to start, you know, and they'll start to release, and it's all, so that surrender, raising our hands, that's surrender. You know, scientifically, our body language is, when we sit with our arms crossed, we're protecting ourselves.
Right.
And so it's proven that if you hold your arms out or up or whatever, when you outstretch your arms, you make yourself vulnerable. You're open to attack.
Yeah.
But after, I don't remember the exact time limit, it's like 2 minutes of your arms stretched out, your body releases a chemical that makes you relaxed.
Yeah.
It makes you feel protected and safe. And it's interesting because that's when we're surrendering, and we're, you know, at first we're always nervous. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and if I'm in a strange church, I feel kind of weird because I'll be up in there, you know, knocking people out of the way and stuff.
Yeah.
But after a minute, you feel something that changes, and yes, it's the presence of God, and we're designed that way. But as far as in the church, man, it's consistency from us.
Yeah.
It is, and not just a consistency up there, but when you step a foot off of the platform, off of the stage, whatever you want to call it, that's where that trust comes from.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times the praise band, the guest speaker, whoever it is, that's all they are.
Yeah.
And when they come off of that stage, they're in a little clique, they're in whatever they're doing, walking back to the sound booth, whatever it is, instead of just going and sitting next to
Right.
a random person and saying hi or whatever. And I think that's going to be the tipping point is when we're genuine enough to the people around us, because that's where our leadership comes from,
Yeah.
that they are like, man, this person's for real.
Yeah.
They didn't even ask me for money. They didn't ask me for nothing. What do they want from me?
Yeah.
3 or 4 times that question goes away. They don't want anything from me. And it's forming a friendship and a trust that's what the leadership is we have to break those barriers, to where we're not up there performing, but that we're actually creating a bond with someone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know that's one thing, especially this morning, because we're praising and usually I'm stuck in my cage. Oh man, I swear it gets hot in there still. But this morning, I'm back in the back and I'm praising and I'm just watching everybody, and people got their hands raised, people's at the altars crying, and then you start noticing little things that y'all do, that each of y'all on the praise team do. And it was just cool to see Brittany praising with her hands raised and Richard raising his hands, because it almost gives that, hey, it's okay. It's okay to surrender. It's okay to lift your hands. Like I love that leadership and stepping out and not a bunch of prima donnas on stage worried about, what they look like. And Brittany's up there snotting and crying and having to go and get tissues. And Richard's got his eyes closed looking like a doofus. And it's just awesome. It's awesome because it really does. It opens up that, hey, it's okay. It's okay to lift your hands. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be broken. Like, that's what it's for. Like, let's set this atmosphere before any word is spoke, before we go anywhere with the service. Let's set this atmosphere right now.
Well, that comes from, me and Sean have had multiple conversations about worship on stage, and we're basically, that's what we do. We lead worship.
Yeah.
So by allowing ourselves to worship God, that is what we're doing. We're saying it is okay to do this here. That's what Sean says all the time from the stage. Do what God wants you to do. If God wants you to shout, if God wants you to lay on the ground, if God wants you to go to the altars, you do what God wants you to do in this worship.
Yeah.
And that's the freedom that has to be allowed for that to work.
Oh yeah. And you'll see lives change through that. Like, that's the only way you see lives change. It's through worship. Like, when we go up there and we give the word and we do all these other things, like, that's great, but it's worship is what it's about. That's where God gets out of the service. Like, we get out of the word. This is what God wants to speak to us, but that's why you start with worship. It's like, God, we're giving it to you first. We're giving you what you deserve. Then, okay, now pour into us. He can't pour into us unless we first pour into him. You know what I'm saying? So, it's beautiful. I love it. Love it.
It's amazing.
What is your, okay, just go around. What is your favorite type of worship? So it could be music. It could be praying. It could be hanging out with your family. Like, what's your favorite type of worship? We start over here.
Oh, of course we're going to start right here because, I look
You don't
like
get
a
to think.
doofus all the time.
You're the other host, so you have to be.
I look like a doofus, and now I get to sound like one as well.
Okay, I love it. You spilled grape juice on me today, so you deserve it.
It was an accident.
He didn't spill it. He squirted it on you.
I was about to freak out. I was like, what is that noise? It sounded like it came from behind me. I was like,
My favorite kind of worship, man, it would have to be a couple because, like, at church, I love being a part of the praise team. I really feel called to do that, and I've only recently, me and Sean have sung together for a couple years now, I guess, and I'm only recently like fully accepted that calling.
Yeah,
because the whole I'm not good enough. What am I even doing up here?
Right.
What we've talked about before, and Sean is so encouraging. Like when I first asked, I told him I was kind of feeling led to try and do the praise and worship. And I was like, is there like an audition process or what, what's the deal? And he's like, if you feel it, come and do it.
yeah,
And it's been that way ever since. It's just like he's just so encouraging to everybody that steps on that stage that it's so easy to just express myself through that praise up there. So that, and then time at the altar, those two things, like, especially in the times that I really let myself forget people are around.
Yeah.
Because you can get yourself up there at the altar and then be like, oh, people are watching me.
Right.
But when you really release something there at the altar, there's just nothing like it. When you really feel that connection with God, and you feel like that you've given him something and he's taken it away.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Yeah.
Ty, what do you think? I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell you.
Okay, Grandma. Me personally, it's music. Music has been such a foundation in my life since I was about 12. I knew ever since then I wanted to do music. Music was just kind of consumed me, and that's what it had been for the longest time. Then went to college, and honestly, I didn't really decide to be a music teacher. It was almost, I wouldn't say it was forced on me, but it was almost like a decision was made by someone that I was going to go to college to be a music teacher. And I was like, well, I mean, rock star's not really practical, so sure.
I guess we'll go there.
Man, I really wish I paid attention.
How's that
to
the two option? Rockstar teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I really wish I had really gave that more thought.
Right.
But, things happened for a purpose, and I, went to college, and I was enjoying it. That gave me a lot of opportunities. I did have opportunities to do worship in churches, and I also got to have opportunities to play professionally, go get paid to play gigs, different places. And now I'm thankful for that opportunity and that time I had in college, because there's so many doors opening for experience for me, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then when I started teaching, I started to not enjoy music, and it was almost devastating for me. And you can ask her. We had the conversation so many times in my second year after we got married. And I was like, I really don't think I want to do this.
Yeah. Almost like a burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took me a minute to realize what I need to do, but I thought to myself, I would rather not have a career in music than just completely wash my love for music away.
Right.
For good. And I'm thankful I made that decision, because all the decisions we make, or the decisions we have made, led us to where we're at now. And I'm glad I'm here. And, it scares me what might have happened, what my life and my attitude towards music would have turned out to be if I had stayed. Because I living and I said, I cannot see myself doing this for 23 more years.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
It was really rough for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of like, sorry, could have butted in for a minute.
That's fine.
It was kind of like, it almost felt like a war with himself, because he's like, I just wasted all this time in college for
Right.
nothing. Like he was like, I just feel like I'm not, worth anything anymore, and like I'm just wasted everybody's time, and like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, it's okay to not use that degree right now,
Right.
because you may later on in life use it, because you're going to have it for the rest of your life. So
Yeah.
it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
Like you earned that degree,
Yeah.
and like God gave you that degree for a reason.
Right.
Like, and it may not have been at the school, because it could be somewhere completely different. I have no idea where else.
Yeah.
And neither does he.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why everything happened the way that it happened when it happened.
Yeah.
And because, there's no coincidences
Right.
or anything.
Well, it gets to the point where you start to wonder, like, was that the enemy trying to snuff out
Yeah.
the plan that God had for your life at a very young in the infancy of the area of music, because the easiest time to snuff something out is in baby form. So he'll usually attack you when you're new. You're a new Christian, or you're just stepping into what God has for your life. So I think that very well could be what it was. Is just the enemy trying to suck that passion out of what God created you for.
Basically, suck the worship out of him. Almost.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, to where you don't even want to step into worship because you're just over it. It has nothing to do with actual worship. Just you're over just doing music altogether. So that could have been what it was. Is just the enemy trying to get to you before as you're first starting.
Yeah, and there were days where I didn't want to play any instruments. I didn't want to listen to music or do anything like that, and I absolutely hated it. And then it came to the point where I didn't even want to teach. All I wanted to do was listen to music or play music.
Yeah,
and and that's not fair to the students I have if I was just that teacher that didn't really teach.
Yeah.
And I really thought to myself, I'd be doing a disservice to myself and those students if I just stayed in that career.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, yanked my ear off over here. It got stuck in his arm, and I was like, "Oh no,
help me!" Olivia, what's your favorite way to worship?
Well, I wonder. No, I'm just kidding. No, like Richard, there's multiple. I mean, I couldn't even make a list out of all of them, honestly. But, no, but definitely, music would have to be number one. Just because, like I said earlier, I was just it felt like I was born into it. I've always been around it. I've always enjoyed it. There's never been a moment where I'm like, I really don't, I don't want to do anything with music anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to,
Let me button real quick. And also, sorry.
Already.
You butted it on my own, I'll button on yours.
I gave
Also,
you 20 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Also, the fact that me and Liv connect so much with music is what is part of why music and worship means so much to me.
Yeah.
Because, I personally believe that is why me and her are married, is to do music ministry or worship through music.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful.
Oh, you had a button for that one too? It's pink too, isn't it? We've been doing worship together since we started dating at her church, and there have been times where, people on the worship team were gone and it was just me and her leading worship.
Yeah.
And then there was also times where we filled in at a couple other churches and it was just me and her leading worship. And, I think I want to say it was such a coincidence that it happened, but there's no quiz. I can't even say the word right. Coincidences. I need to enunciate my words.
We love him anyways. It's all right.
Oh, Lord.
A little dyslexic over here.
Anyways, but I think that's almost the entire reason me and her met, is to do music ministry and worship together.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could see that with anybody that watches y'all, you could see that y'all are anointed to be together. It's like it just goes. Like I remember Tristan, the first time y'all sang on a Sunday morning, Tristan came up to me and said, "Wow, that's crazy." I was like, yeah they're doing what they're supposed to be doing right there. That's just good.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm kind of going off of what he said, there is a reason why we are together, and why past relationships that we thought, this is it, this is my person. There's reasons why those didn't work out. And now looking back, I completely understand why everything happened the way that it happened.
Yeah.
I was hurt for a reason, and I found him for a reason.
Right.
And I do feel like he has helped me, especially in my spiritual walk, whenever I'm just I'm not feeling it. I don't, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
And whenever, which we talked about this earlier, how he has pretty much the technical side of the worship, and then I just have the I don't know what you would call it, but like the worship side of the worship.
You're
I don't know.
That- yeah, that's the only way. Yeah, yeah.
But,
Because it is very two very distinct, different things.
Yes.
it really is.
It's like he definitely knows more of like the technical everything about
Yeah.
the music in general, and I don't. I'm just like, just give me chords and I'm good.
Right.
Like that's as in depth as I go.
Yeah.
But spiritually, it's completely different. And I don't know. And then I think that like Richard with the altar and everything, just having that one-on-one time, and like I feel like people don't understand, like whenever I say like when you feel it, you feel it.
Yeah,
Like it's not just like you don't feel that way for just because. Like there's a reason why you're like feel like you're being pulled to go to the altar.
Yeah.
It's because that's where it's supposed to be. Like you may not know why, and I mean it may be because somebody else has something for you, and you just don't know it.
yeah,
Or you may have something for them, and you just don't know it still.
Right,
Like
right, yeah.
and because I've had both of those things happen, and it's just, and like even tonight, like because you don't expect it,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
it's gonna happen if it's
Yeah.
supposed to happen.
yeah.
And just taking that step out into faith, like it just like, I don't know, it just like inspires me even more to like, okay, like I can do this. Like this is, I'm on the right path. I'm doing what I need to do. And other times it corrects me, like, okay, it's a kick in the butt. Okay, but I think my third one will probably be family. Just being able to be with my family. I'm thankful that I'm able to still be able to be connected with my family, and it's just, it really is a blessing, like genuinely. And just being able to share like spiritual things that other people will actually understand, and that they can help me in my spiritual walk as well. Just being able to have that as well, it's just like, it's so important.
Yeah.
And I love it.
That's good. That's good. Pastor Sean, what you think?
My favorite form of worship would have to be
The
music.
Nintendo Switch.
sir. No.
Oh.
No. Growing up, I think for all of us, because we are musicians, so obviously that's just a very integral part of our life. We've all grown up that music was our escape.
Yeah.
It's that's where we went. That's where, when we felt good, that's where we went. When we were feeling depressed, that's where we went. And naturally, music affects all of us that way. It takes us somewhere. And someone had told me one time when I first got saved, we were talking about music, and I was like, yeah, I still like to listen to some of the music I used to listen to. I don't listen to anything where they're cussing or talking about drugs. And they told me, they were like, well, music is a form of spiritual warfare in itself. And when they told me that, I didn't want to believe it, because you don't want to hear what, some kind of truth that's going to make you change what you're doing.
All right.
Right.
And I kind of asked them, I said, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, think about any music you listen to. So if you put on a song right now that you listen to when you were a preteen or a teenager, it automatically takes you to a certain point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, that's spiritual warfare. That's spiritual. It takes you somewhere else. Right. And so that really made me think about, and it opened my eyes to the effect of music and how true that is. Because I was a young Christian, and I didn't really think about the fact that how spirituality works, and how things take you somewhere in your mind, and that's spiritual. So my favorite worship, just by it's what draws me the closest to our Father, is music.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I've got two.
2 whole ones?
2 whole ones.
You can only have one. Sorry, that's the rules.
I've got 2, and they kind of coincide with each other. So mine is being a husband. I almost said wife. That's weird.
That's pretty close to
Yeah, I know, right?
I
I
believe
guess.
you, Michelle.
Yeah, exactly. Mine's being a husband and being a father is my favorite type of worship because I feel like my wife has seen me at my worst moments, and my kids don't see my worst moments. Does that make sense? Like that, like all they see is daddy. Daddy's here. Daddy's awesome. Daddy's Superman. Daddy, daddy, daddy. They don't see the worst, and all my wife has seen was the worst. So I feel like everything else, you know, the preaching and speaking, I feel like I was born for that. Like this, I really feel like I stepped into what God created me for. I feel like being a dad and being a husband is something that I'm allowed to do. Something that even though I'm not fit to do it, he allows me to do it, and he allows me to make an effect on these kids and to do my best to lead my home and to lead my family. So I think that is something that beyond anything else that I can do, that's an everyday, every moment thing. Like that's something that when I'm not here, that's what I am. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. When I am here, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. I feel like it's something that never goes away and that never stops and never slows down. So I feel like everything I do, whether I'm here or not, is worshiping him in that aspect of me being a good dad and me being a good father. Or me being, those are two of the same things. Me being a good father and me being a good husband. Yeah, because I mean, it's the toughest, most satisfying job in the world. And I hate failing at it, but I do it daily. But that's my favorite type of worship. Just being able to do that, because I feel like it's service. It's 100% service to others. So
Yeah, it shows every Father's Day because we don't get nothing.
man,
Way to make us feel so generic.
So-
Oh, music.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like,
oh,
he just went there. He just took
I'm
it
a
the
dog
whole-
dad.
the
I
whole
service my
direction.
dogs every day.
Oh my goodness.
oh,
Fur
yeah.
babies.
Fact.
Fur babies. Oh my god, I don't have a
Lord.
barking.
They're
Sorry.
on crack, I swear.
For the record, I love my wife. Just saying. Just saying.
Now, Tyler.
I'm like, oh, there.
I was gonna add something, kind of what
That is so funny.
kind of what Sean was talking about when it comes to music and spiritual warfare. I've when kind of towards the beginning of when I was starting to dive into being part of worship teams and things like that, and it wasn't even a thing until I realized it pretty recently that, we can only serve one thing or the other. And, thinking back, I was almost at a point where I was worshiping music.
Yeah.
And that's such a tough thing to almost admit sometimes, just because, I had such a strong, almost like a strong pulling towards music. I grew up in church and it was almost like a routine thing. So it
Yeah.
didn't really seem super significant to me. But then when I naturally gravitated to music, it was almost like that was my identity, was musician.
Yeah.
And then, kind of now I'm realizing, how powerful music is, and God made it that powerful for us to worship him. And, I feel good about myself because I've kind of come to that realization where, I can worship music, or I can worship the God that created music.
Yeah.
And, when people are talking about, it's the lights, it's the fog machines, it's the chord progressions, things like that. Those are the things that God put on earth to encourage us to worship. And that's how I see it. I don't know if y'all feel that same way, but that's how I see it, because I really did kind of have an argument with myself, like, am I worshiping God or am I worshiping the music that I'm playing?
That's good.
And, like I said, I'm not the best at praying. I don't go down to the altars like everyone else does, but I feel like my version of worship, how I worship, is, somewhere, I think it was in Psalms, it talked about, playing music skillfully for the Lord.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is my almost my identity in worship, is being able to take the gifts that God's given me and do it knowing that he created that for me to do.
Yeah. And it's good. And you see, just in the little time that you've been with us, that y'all have been with us leading worship, you see that. You can see it, that even in that time, it's went from more of a performance to a praise. You could see it. You could physically see it tonight. I could physically see it on you, that something has changed, that it went from up playing music for God, but you're just up playing music, to you're worshiping. You can see it and you can feel it. And that's what sets the atmosphere. That's what sets you apart from, there's a million musicians out there. There's not a million worshipers, true worshipers that get up there and usher in the presence of God. There's not very many. A lot of people can learn and take lessons and know how to play music, but not everybody worships.
What made me kind of think of that is like, just to add on, is like whenever over at the lock-in, we had like the split groups for devotionals and everything. And we kind of talked about, when we had all the girls over there, about what goes in comes right back out.
Yeah.
And, that just made me think of it all over again. Cause like if you're just up there doing a performance, for people, it's not going to do anything for anybody. Maybe for like one person or two people, because they may just not know, they may not see the difference. But for people who actually like do see it and do feel it, like the complete difference, and because you will feel it, like you said, you'll feel it and you'll see it, like, and it's incredible. But if you're up there actually like worshiping and putting your literal heart and soul into it and your spirit, then that's going into people and they start to feel it and they start to see it and it becomes part of them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you'll see somebody perform. It's like, that was great, but nothing changes.
Yeah.
It's like, what a great performance. That was really good, but nothing changed on the inside of me, other than I was happy for a couple hours while they were playing music. After that, nothing really. I feel the same.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important idea and concept for worship leaders to grasp, because when you're trying to make a performance, not only are you taking worship away from God, but you're now trying to make yourself as an idol.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just
That's scary.
It's no bueno.
It's no bueno.
Because I mean, I look at, I listen to a lot of newer worship artists and Christian artists, things like that. I love listening to Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham and who else? Elevation and Maverick City, Red Rocks, and all them. And I love the idea of so many, like when it comes to like Elevation, the mega churches, I love the idea of having so many people up there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that displays and kind of gives an example of fellowship through worship, because we're not just focused on one person. Yeah. One person may be leading the song, but that's all they're doing. They're just kind of helping people learn the song, know the song, understand what the song is trying to convey.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can watch a music video from Elevation Worship and see 30 people on the stage, and just the way they worship is honestly, that's really helped me with being able to, almost be a worship leader, because I see them and I see what they're doing, and, when they're speaking in between songs, it's, it almost gives the idea that, oh, we're at a concert, but just hearing them speak, it kind of takes away from that concert setting.
Yeah.
Because, it would be awesome, if we had a big group like that and people, talk about the songs we did and it's be like, oh, well, who did that? I don't know. But it was,
Yeah.
I felt God through that.
Yeah.
I don't remember who sang it, but that was
See, you
great.
got me pumped up, man. So I know we've been going for a while, but man, you get me because what you just shared is his heart. He told me he loves the fact that we can get up there as a group and you can't tell who the leader is. You can't tell who's in charge and who's the leader. It's just one worship altogether. It's like, I don't know who the leader is or who's the main person, but man, what an amazing, amazing time.
Yeah.
So that's awesome to hear that. So you see hearts lining up in the worship that we're all on that same page of we just want to usher in the presence of God.
I do feel like that is really important to I don't feel like just one person needs to be over everything. Cause it's not called just I don't know how to say
We're
it.
not Olivia and the rest of the worship.
Olivia
Yeah.
and the Beats.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we'll go with. We're called a worship team for a
Right.
reason. Yeah. It's not just Olivia and, the whatever beats. If you
Beats.
want to go with that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, nothing will make someone that's part of a worship team feel like worshiping less than making them feel like a backup dancer.
Right.
Because, we're up there creating that culture. We're up there setting that example for worship. But how are we setting that example if there's someone up here that's like, oh, I'll just sway in the background. And
Yeah.
it comes to the point where like, I don't want to do this,
Right.
And that's why I love the idea of having a lot of people on there. I love the idea of having so many musicians and we just have just one big giant sound, but I also love that we have one big giant sound with so many people doing the same thing for the same goal.
Yeah. That's good.
And that's one thing that I really, really love about coming to Remnant, because it is very different. It reminds me of when I went to college, honestly, because of course, obviously it's not near as big as the college I went to,
Slightly small.
Yeah.
but only by, a couple 100,000, No, but just, yeah, it just reminds me so much of when I was at college, and it kind of takes me back almost every time that we're there to everyone working as a team and
Yeah.
trying to help each other if they don't understand, what's going on with the song or whatever it is, know, and not even just in the music ministry, just even with kids or with youth or whatever it is, and just being able to actually connect, even not just in the church, but outside of the church too.
Yeah.
And because when I had my doctor's appointment, and then Mikey, you messaged me and you were like, hey, how did everything go?
Yeah.
And and we had talked to a couple other people about it, and nobody else had messaged me about it. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's nice that somebody actually, cares about it and
Yeah.
is actually wondering how we're doing. And, it doesn't matter what it is. We could just be having an off day,
Yeah.
and we're all checking in with each other. And that's something that I had in college too. And that I missed that because we haven't
Yeah.
had it in so long.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's important, I feel for people to keep their softened hearts,
Yeah.
because a lot of people now, especially people who have been hurt by people in the church, not by God himself, but by the church, just from misleading information or whatever happened, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just very thankful
Oh yeah.
to be able to be a part of a church that, where it's not just, we're not a church just in the church. We're a church outside of the church as well.
Yeah.
And to be able to show that to other people and to hopefully soften some hearts.
That's good. Rich, what you got? You got anything else?
No,
I think you took a deep breath like, yeah, so. No.
No, I will say though, with all the talk about praise and worship, I just wanted to tell everybody that this will drop Tuesday, right? So Wednesday
Yes.
night, 6:00 at Remnant Church, we will be having a praise night. So you can come and see all of the voices that you've
Oh, that's right. That's right. Except for me, I'm in a cage. I'm
as where you belong.
come knock on the window.
I just want to point out that I am actively trying to find someone who will want to play drums in a church setting.
All right.
I like, trust me, ever since you told me that, you've been just wanting to just do pastoral stuff.
Yeah.
I've been, looking, searching. I've messaged people and things like that.
I love it. I love playing the drums. I mean, it's
You
time
got
to
you got things
transition
on your
out of there,
plate.
man. It's time to transition out of there. For
you
sure.
got things on your plate.
I know you're gonna miss me, Sean. Like, calm down. It's okay. You'll make it. I'm still there.
I
Yeah,
do
6
know,
o'clock Wednesday.
I do know that sometimes, just one more little tidbit. When it does come for like musicians, especially whenever we're up there every single Sunday and sometimes even Wednesdays, which will become more regular. Sometimes it is really easy to let yourself get burnout on it
Yeah.
and to let yourself be like, I really don't want to do this again. Like, we just did this last week, or we did this song like 2 weeks ago and then last week again, and now we want to do it again. And it's really easy to get burnt out on stuff like that. Sorry, I thought I turned it off. My bad. Okay. It's just my dad, so I can call him back. He'll be fine. No, but it's super easy to get burnout on stuff, and I don't like getting burnout on things because then I feel like I'm a horrible person.
Yeah.
And because I'm like, oh, I kind of want to break from it, but I can't. 'Cause,
Right.
But it is okay to take breaks from things like that, because sometimes you do need time, at church even
Yeah.
to just have that time to worship yourself. Not worship yourself. That sounded so bad.
Oh,
Oh my
worship
gosh.
yourself.
Okay,
Oh,
we
no.
need to.
Oh no.
That is not what I meant. I thought that was birds. I was like, what the heck? That's a new one. No, but it is okay to I can't think of
To worship yourself.
She done
take
lost it.
to give yourself time within the church or even outside the church to worship God.
Yeah.
Like
By yourself.
by yourself.
There's a good
By yourself.
Yeah.
No, I said that completely wrong.
That's
And
so
that'll
funny.
happen more and more, but
You're a gold calf. And you're a gold calf.
Do you have a picture of yourself? Just, I am so
She's the
awesome.
person that has her wallpaper as herself.
Right.
oh my goodness.
Oh, you're so beautiful. I love you.
Okay, pride.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, thank y'all for joining us today. Y'all are awesome.
It was my pleasure.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome.
You're welcome, Bob.
I'll take payment in a form of cash, check, or food.
Cash check or
I
food.
think food sounds great.
Just don't eat
I'm
the
also
cash
really
or check.
hungry.
This microphone's looking pretty good.
Oh, that's so funny. Rich, what you got? Anything else?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Well, I sure love you. This is awesome.
Love you too.
What a great one. We love y'all. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week. Peace.